What's going on, everyone? Jeranism again, back with a new video. I'm calling it the flat truth of the new moon. Hopefully you guys can help me out. I made a little observation, a new observation about the moon and its phases, and so I'm going to show that in a little bit. Have you guys take a look at it and let me know if you see the same thing I do, which is a major problem with the current structure. So the other thing I wanted to do is just cover real quickly with a few people that have been writing and are still very confused about would we fall over the edge, and I understand the reason for thinking that. It's been taught to you that it's hilarious to think about these boats or things that got close to the edge, and you've seen pictures. If you look up flat earth on Google, you'll see pictures right away of boats going over the edge, and that's not necessarily the case when it comes to the flat earth model that would be true. The azimuthal equidistant map that you see in front of you, which just so happens to be the exact same map as the logo of the United Nations. So, which is also separated into 33 sections. If you see that on the screen, 8 sections of 4, and then a middle. So that seems peculiar. We hear a lot about the globalist movement, and what are they doing? Is it simply keeping the myth of the globe going? On this next image, you see Operation Paperclip, which you might want to do a little research on that just to show you where did NASA come from, what is this country, speaking of the United States, what is their connection to Germany, to rocketry, when did NASA come into existence, and it's all basically these German scientists, 1,500 of them, that came over with the United States at the end of World War II. You can also see here, very clearly seen, that the International Space Station is a strange shape, and it is almost identical to the symbol of Baphomet, the same symbol that you will find on the hat of the Grand Commanders of the 33rd degree. So look into that if you would as well. Just to cover again, this is the azimuthal equidistant map. It is used many places. I put a link down below for the Wikipedia for this particular map, and it tells you that it's used in radio and how simple it is to use in radio. You just simply turn your radio transmitter in the direction that the map says, and that's all you have to do. So basically it's a map that's used in radar, it's used in sailing, it's used in tons of applications, so you should look into that. So this next little image I drew just shows a couple important points. If you kind of see up above at the north spot of the map, you'll see that's the sun and how it rotates around the earth in the circle that gives us our day and night. If you notice the white box on the right, you'll see I have a person pointed out, and as long as they're facing north, take for instance if they have a compass in their hands, if they're facing north, then south would be anywhere behind them. And that's true throughout the entire map. So if you're in Africa and you're facing north, behind you would be Antarctica, which is the same as on the globe. Basically, if you're facing north, behind you is the edge. And you can see down in the lower left-hand corner, this is what the ice shelf looks like, or the ice wall. So no, you can't fall off. No one's really, that we know of, gone far enough past this ice wall to know if it ever ends. Is it never ending? Does it have another wall, or some people have mentioned possibly a dome? We don't know. What it comes down to is that we should be paying attention to what is fake and what is real, what is constructed for us, and what do we really see. If they let us go to the North Pole or the South Pole, well, things might be different, but they don't let us go, so the question is why. This picture here is of Einstein, and if you notice, he's pointing to his head. He's got some planets and stuff in the background behind him. But if you think about it, when somebody points to their head, are they telling you that they think, or are they telling you to think? So is Einstein here, is he telling us that he's very smart, or is he telling us to think? So in my opinion, he's telling us to think. Maybe he knew what they were going to do with his theory, and that he wanted us to think and use our heads and not believe everything we're told. Because if you do believe what we're told, then you will know that the sun and the moon look to be the same size in our sky, especially during an eclipse when one crosses the other. They are almost identical in size, and this is because the sphere-Earth theory says the sun is 92 million miles away and 860-something thousand miles across, which happens to be 400 times closer and 400 times smaller than the moon, which seems a little bit fantastical if you ask me, whereas if you believe in the flat Earth model, the sun is 32 miles in diameter and 3,000 miles up, and the moon is also 32 miles in diameter and also 3,000 miles up. This is something that you can buy a sextant and measure yourself and see what you come out with. If you do it, let me know. Be interested to hear your results. I don't think you'll come out with 92 million miles for the sun. This next picture is just a little image I put up in my last video just to show that the distance between California and Hawaii would cover 2,471 miles, and this distance would have to have 770 miles of curvature. So if you know anything about water, take a cup of water, take a pan of water, take a mile worth of water, that water level is always going to be flat. It'll never be curved, yet they tell us that all the way around the globe it's curved. This next image, I just have a little plane to show you. For those of you who don't know, planes fly by keeping even with the horizon, which tells you that the horizon goes up with your eye level. It's not as if you get up in a plane and the horizon drops way down low. The horizon stays with you as you go up, and that's how planes fly. They just stay even with their horizon. So this image here just shows that, and then also starts to show you my problem with the globe. And this is something that is hard to explain, and I'll just let you really think on it. Really picture what it would mean to be on a sphere or on a globe. You have some people right side up, some people upside down, and then with magic, you're told that because of gravity, you're both right side up. Another problem I have with this globe theory is if you watch any of the NASA or now SpaceX launches, you will see that the rocket does not go straight up, but it goes up and then to the right. If you ask somebody, an intellectual, why this happens, they'll tell you that because the rocket needs to get enough speed to exit the globe. But if you really think about a globe, no matter where you exit would always be the same. So that's where I'm confused with that one. There is no difference. You can't go out the side of the dome or the globe. Just as if you think of yourself being on the globe, you have to be in the exact middle of it. Never could you be on the side of the globe. It would be everyone sees the same thing from their perspective, which to me is pretend. It's not something that's realistic. This image here just shows that somebody up near the North Pole would be spinning at 150 miles per hour, and somebody spinning at the equator would be spinning at 1,050 miles per hour. Quite a difference. And you're telling me if you flew a plane from one spot to the other, that when you got off the plane, you wouldn't notice that you're now spinning 1,000 miles per hour faster than you were before. This image here just shows one of the theories, or the round earth theory, uses the fact that you can see further the higher you are up as a proof of the sphere of the earth, which makes no sense. This is not proof of a sphere. This is proof that somebody who's higher up can see further. That's the only thing that proves. So if you look at the simple little diagram picture here, you'll see that the person who is in the water actually can see, obviously, the least amount of distance. And then the next person up, the one on the shore, can obviously see further than the person in the water. And the next picture is somebody on a ladder who would obviously see further than the person who's on the shore, who would see further than the person in the water. Keep going further, you have somebody up on a mountain would be able to see further, and ultimately somebody in a plane would be able to see the furthest. So this isn't any proof of a sphere. It's simply proof, as we said, that the higher you are up, the further you can see because the earth is flat, and it is your limited view of perspective, or your view, that decides how far you can see. If you look at this image, it's from a plane, and you'll see that you can see just the tip of the sun there. So you'd have to understand that somebody on the earth who's at the ground level at this point would see night. The only reason that the plane sees the sun still is it's higher up. So this kind of tells you what happens to the sun from your vantage point on Earth. When you see it set, somebody in a plane who's right above you would still see further than you and be able to still see the sun. This is not because we are on a sphere, just how far you can see depending on how high up you are. And so now I'll go ahead and go with my new moon theory, and somebody can help me. Comment, please, what I am seeing wrong about this. As you see on the screen, this is the path that the moon takes as it travels around the Earth. You can see up in the boxes in the upper left there's a view of what we see from the night side and a view of what we see from day side. So you'll see now that as the moon gets right behind us, we get a full moon as it's fully illuminated by the sun. And then as it comes around the other side, we slowly see less and less of it until we have just the sliver, as they call this, the waning and the waxing of the moon. Now here's my issue is when we get to the point where the moon is in between the sun and the earth, they say this is a new moon, and we don't see the moon. My question is, if you see up in the upper left there, why is there no black dot in the middle of the day sky, as the moon should be between us and the sun and should be blocking out the sun, but we never see that. So these next images show the same thing. You'll see they always tell you where the moon is and why we see it the way we do, yet they fail to explain why during a new moon they just simply say, well, it's between us and the sun so we don't see it, which could make sense to the night sky, but does it make any sense to the day sky side? Wouldn't they see the moon being in the sky and blocking out the sun? So you can see in this image the same thing, that with the rays of the sun fully engulfing the sky, not aimed directly at the moon, wouldn't we see from the day side a black spot in the sky, but we don't see that. I just put an image up real quick that says how us funny human beings think that we lost a plane, which was a few miles in the sky, 4, 5, 6,000 miles in the sky, and we've lost it completely. No one has any idea where it's at. Yet we have a robot on Mars that takes selfies and is 150 million miles away. Seems to be a little peculiar. But they also tell you that this is real. The image you see there of galaxies and this beautiful smoke, and this is nothing more than a CGI computer graphics, computer-generated image. Nothing real that we see. Same thing with this image. Really pretty if it were in fact anything that we see in real life, but it is not. And yet I'm the one who wears the tinfoil hat, and people believe that this is true. Next, I'm going to take a look at a video. I found a site. I linked to it in the description, so you can go there and play with it. Basically has many different maps, and you can see different currents and wave configurations, and these are live. You can also look back in time if you want to see what it was a month ago. So let's take a look at some of these. So if you take a look at the image on the screen now, you can click the link in the description and check out this for yourself. You can turn on, for instance, like I did, wind currents, wave currents, and then check out what they look like on the globe. So as you can see, they're kind of all over the place, going roundabouts for no reason in some regions. It doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason to the path of the waves or the path of the wind currents. Doesn't make any sense with a spinning Earth. None of it seems to jive with what we see and perceive on a day-to-day basis. And I don't know about for you guys, but I don't have an agenda in all this like others. All I want is the truth, and it seems peculiar to me that there's so many things that can't be explained in the globe model. Yet when we turn it to the flat Earth model, all of a sudden these things are explained. You'll see on the screen now I'm just kind of showing some different configurations and then looking at the way the waves seem to not make any sense. Now you'll see that I flipped it to the azimuthal equidistant, or the flat Earth map, and now things seem to make perfect sense. You can see everything flowing in a counterclockwise direction. You can see the in the middle that things change, and then also you can see where the blue is. This would represent the path of the moon and sun. So when we talk about the moon affecting the tides on Earth, this would be true in the flat Earth model, as the moon goes around and carries the water with it, kind of releases it as it gets further along its path, which by then it will have picked up new water, and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying is, if you go here and just play with some different things, look at the wind, look at the surface temperatures, you'll start to see that the system seems to make sense on the flat Earth, but does not on the globe. And these are the things I'm talking about, is why do all these things not jive with reality? Why are the moon phases like the new moon that I showed earlier not realistic? Look at this here. This shows the waves. You can see that the heaviest waves are right in the red region here, which would be right where the sun and moon are affecting the tides the most. The yellow and the green represent the medium waves, or the um, ones in the middle, and then the ones in the blue are the smallest waves, or the least active. So you see here, you can switch it between the AE, which is the azimuthal equidistant, or the O, like, oh my God, I don't live there, or for the globe. You can bring that up. You can see on the screen now what made sense before doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of sense now. Um, it might, until we decide that, well, the Earth is tilted and is spinning on its axis. And if that were the case with the tilt, we would see a much different pattern of heavy waves. For instance, the Earth is probably tilted about like that as it spins. And as we turn the colors back on, you'll be able to see that this doesn't make a lot of sense. As it's spinning, wouldn't this be different than shown? So I challenge you to go and check it out yourself and ask yourself all the questions I've been asking myself. And why does the spinning Earth make no sense? And why does gravity make no sense? And how am I supposed to believe in curved water when it makes no sense to me? And why do the time-lapse videos we see of stars make no sense per their model? So these are the kind of things that I ask myself that you need to be asking yourself. Why is it to me that living on a globe makes no sense, does not jive with my version of reality, where two people can be both right side up, but in reality one is upside down, but not really because of gravity. It doesn't make any sense to me. Why do these wave currents make no sense on the globe? That's a question you need to ask yourself. Why does relativity make no sense? We can measure how fast the Earth is going, and we can measure how fast the sun is going, but only relative to each other. The fact that the Earth is also going 66,000 miles per hour around the sun, we can't then say how fast the moon is going in comparison with the Earth and the sun, since it's all relative to your position. It just doesn't jive. So these are the kind of things I'm talking about. On the screen, you can see you're able to make some changes. You can change what view you're looking at. This one here, you can see, seems to make sense, but these are the waves, I believe. But you'll see there's some circular patterns going down below. And I can't remember exactly what this was. But you can also click areas on the map and get their exact location, their exact temperature. If you're looking at the air pressure, or you're looking at the surface temperature, tons of things you can look at and start to see where some things just don't make sense. Why are we getting those kind of rotations down there? Then when we switch it and go to the azimuthal equidistant, we can see here, now it starts to make more sense. See the path that everything's taking that jives with the spiral we see in everyday life, almost everywhere. You've seen the Fibonacci sequence. These things all tie together. To me, I'm asking myself, why does the jet stream not make sense on the globe? Why does the NASA roll technique not make sense when launching rockets? Why does losing 700 boxes of moon landing footage, the greatest accomplishment of mankind, not make any sense to me? There's no way you could lose 700 boxes of videos unless you were trying to get rid of them. Why does NASA doctor and remove images? There's plenty of examples of them having an image up on their database. Somebody finds a mistake with it, or a clear proof of deception, and the next thing you know, they remove the image. Doesn't seem like a scientific organization that is, attempting to distribute facts to me. Why is there, if there's no evidence for the sphere Earth, why is it the accepted model? Why is flat Earth made fun of? Why is it what we were all taught to laugh at and snicker at as soon as somebody talks about flat Earth? Seems kind of weird. You can talk about anything you want, but you talk about flat Earth, and all of a sudden you should have a tinfoil hat. So this here is showing some of the temperatures, I believe. Again, doesn't really make a lot of sense on the globe model. Things just all seem to kind of act wild or not like you would expect them. But you'll see in a second when I flip it what a difference it does make. But just keep asking yourself those questions. Why can't I go to the North Pole? Why can't I go to Antarctica? If everything were as they say, there should be no problem with me taking a trip down there. But go ahead and try, and you'll see that you have to have a government guide or a government tour guide. That just seems like deception. There would be no other reason for them to require this of me. Why do all countries own Antarctica? Think about every location on the globe, and that throughout time it's all been a war to acquire property, to acquire a location. Everything's about, this is owned by the United States now. You know, Britain, they took it over from Britain, and then the Indians own this, and we took over the Indians, and the Mexicans owned California until the United States took it from Mexico. Everything's about conquest of land. But then there's Antarctica, and nobody owns it. It just sits out there above, around the edge, and nobody makes any claims on it. It's owned equally by everyone. There's a reason for that. If it was just another splotch of land, believe me, somebody would own it. Somebody would have gotten there and staked claim to it, and there would have to be a war in order for us to know who owns it for sure. But that seems peculiar to me. Why are all rockets launched near water? You know, this is just another one of those weird things that, is it because they simply go up in the air and go off to the side and get out of our view and dump into the water? This wouldn't be possible if they launched from, say, Colorado, where they would launch their rocket. Well, people, either east or west, whichever way the rocket went, would be able to follow that with their eyes. But when they do it from Florida and dump it out into the Atlantic Ocean, well, there's nobody there who can verify this. So these are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself. I think this map here tool will really be beneficial to you. If you go there and just play around with it, as you see I'm doing, and just watch different configurations that seem to always jive with the flat Earth, but don't jive with the, oh, that's not where I live map, or the globe map, which just usually looks like some sort of mess. You see here that there's just, these are the waves that just seem to make no sense. If the Earth was spinning on this, on the equator here, then the waves would go the way that you would expect, but they don't. They don't go that way at all. You can see some below the equator are even coming back, going with the spin, while the ones above are going away. So these are the kind of things that make me say, something doesn't seem right. And I'm just trying to get you guys to do the same thing. Now we switch to the globe, and we are at 250 is the height, and we're doing the wind, and you'll see here at 250 up, you can see how this just doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense with what we see on Earth. You can see the heavier stuff just is kind of going in weird circles, bouncing all over the place. The Earth doesn't spin like this, right? It spins with a tilt of 22.5 degrees. So this doesn't really seem to jive with what we see. The Earth would spin this way as shown. And it just kind of looks like a mess. Doesn't look like it really is working. Remember, the Earth would be tilted about up like this, and then it really doesn't seem like it makes sense anymore. Why would you have a heavier flow on the bottom? Now we're going to change it over to the flat Earth map, and all of a sudden, if you look at it now, things seem to make more sense. Things around the outside are all going at a certain speed. Then you have the quieter regions, which are right below the path of the sun and moon. And then you've got the inner regions. But this to me actually makes sense with what I see. So go there, check it out, play with it a little. You can watch the rest of this video. It's just going to be a little bit more of my back and forth playings with this map. But like I said, click the link below. I have another video coming out in a few hours that will talk about SpaceX and their most recent launch and the CGI movie making and Hollywood crap that they put out and tell you is real. It's not real, folks. Watch the video. You'll see for yourself that they're faking space. And I don't like to think about why any more than you do. But it certainly is not okay for them to be lying to the entire world. So let's call them out for it and get it stopped. Till then, tell the truth.